In this video, I'm going to do a hypothetical. So, I've had blockages. That's what we're going to use as the hypothetical. I've been having a blockage. Now, if let's say my family actually cared about me, my father, let's say, and asked me why I'm spending so much time in the emergency room and why I'm out so much and why I spent from 7 something in the morning or 7 a.m. all the way to like 9, 10 a.m. or was it 6:30 to 9:30, something like that, screaming in pain this morning, having to use an enema to get the blockage unblocked. But if I just told simple language to my family, let's say I passed the message to somebody who's supposed to be a professional nurse, so I know I can say I have a blockage and get that passed on to my father without having to give details. But here's where their insanity really makes things difficult. I tell them I have a neurological disorder and I have lots of evidence from 25 years. I have a stomach issue multiple doctors have talked about. They've talked to my father about it. Me, let's say I say this to Alice. How do you know it's not gastritis? How do you know? You don't know anything. I'll believe it when a doctor tells me it. Well, a doctor's only as good as the information the patient gives them. And thanks to my mother and father giving bad information for 15 years, no matter which doctor I go to, I would have to use a different name to get an honest answer. Yes, if we check me in under a different name and we give me a bank account with a decent insurance company and I walk into a brand new doctor office, they will absolutely give me an answer based on the information I'm giving them. But the problem is, they need to do a background. They want to know the old information. They want to listen to the old doctors. They want to hear from the father and the mother. But once when they get involved, then I can't get the help I need. I need help from a neurologist getting a documented diagnosis that includes seizures, a neurological disorder going back 25 years to childhood, and I need all the symptoms that I have experienced in the last 25 years to go on the file. So if I have another seizure and get paralyzed and can't talk, the new doctor in South Carolina, when I move down there, if I move to another state, isn't clueless with what's wrong with me. Because all they can find is a bunch of bullshit from a passed away mother that fantasized about mental illnesses and spent all her time coming up with new mental illnesses to tell the doctor, meanwhile spending no time with me and shoving me in cabins up in New Mexico's with no supervision, where I just play with the rattlesnakes and tarantulas, and we look for lizards, and one kid stomps in a red ant hill pile up to his waist and they attack him and he gets burned because they're red ants. We got other kids playing with a black widow under a cup and the staff member saying be careful, they jump. These are poisonous, very deadly animals, and we are 3 hours, 2 hours from the nearest emergency room. We're in the top of the mountains. I mean, this had a climate. We got snow, black bears, pine trees, all of it in this part of New Mexico. Mountains, top of the mountain. This was a cabin back when I went there. Now it's called Villa Santa Maria, but you gotta remember, I was there in 1999 to 2002, around that area. Back then, it was totally different than what they built in the 2000s. In 2010, they put in some new buildings. In 2012, another new building. In 2008, they got a pool. So if you get a satellite picture, it looks different than it was when I was there. See, they got the money from parents by letting kids go to this program before it was actually open. So what they did is they had an old shack and they just bought up a bunch of property. They took a bulldozer and they plowed the field and all the trees and dug them all up so you would have this big field. Then they built some office space for all the staff members and office workers that the kids aren't allowed to use. We're only keeping in the old cabin that was there originally. All the new buildings we're not allowed in. We have to sleep on the floor, and every day we are to play outside and just wander through the woods every day. Especially once when the teacher bailed out after the first 3 months. Then staff members just kind of filled in the blanks and we got to go dig with rocks. Like one class, now there was no book lesson plan, they weren't showing us any lesson plan, but we were first playing with toys. I was trying to build Lego dinosaurs and a Lego scorpion, and another kid was playing with dinosaurs. And she said, "How would we like to do fossils tomorrow?" And I said, "That would be an actual lesson plan. That would be cool, but we can't find them." She goes, "Yes, we can." The next day, she drives us to the side of a highway with some rock hammers, and we dig up some fossils. Then we get back to the program, and the African American starts yelling at the staff member, who's a woman, calling her all different types of inappropriate names, goes to each child, picks up our fossils, then goes outside and smashes them in the dust. Just smashes them and smashes them and smashes them until all the fossils are broken up. Now, these were real fossils dug up. They had shells, plants, real fossilized from thousands of years ago in the middle of rocks. We had to split open a rock to get to these fossils on the side of the highway. And what did we learn that day? We learned that fossils are everywhere in New Mexico. They're even on the side of the highway. We learned that you need a rock hammer to get them. We learned how to split a rock with a rock hammer. And then we learned that this big, heavy-set male has a lot of insecurity issues and is a very upset, violent individual. And that he is willing to steal a child's accomplishment, just like my mother did, and smash him outside. He did this once before when a staff member had a new class. One other class we took is we got to go just to a festival. That was the whole class. Go to a festival for the day. So we went to a festival. It was a rock festival. And they gave us salt rocks. Now, we had no money, so a lot of it we weren't allowed to do. Most of the whole festival we couldn't do. But there was one area where we all got to do, and they gave us each a salt rock that we were allowed to lick. We literally are allowed to suck on it, and we all are sucking on these rocks, and we get back, and the African American gentleman staff member gets extremely mad. Remember, this is like a 300-pound gorilla guy who could have been a linebacker in football. This guy has now got insecure again because his classes are play video games and go camping. And now we are once again learning that salt comes from the ground and can be just this pink salt that we just find in the ground. And we're all enjoying our salt rock, and we're talking about how good this school class was that isn't even any books, no lesson plans, no math, no reading. The only reading I really did is when they did reading hour. That's when they forced us all to grab a book and then sit down for 1 hour. No teacher, no lesson plan, and the books they have on the shelf I can't read. They need somebody to teach me. So one of the other 13-year-old kids decides to sit with me during these hours. Anyways, so you have that going on. So when I bring up maybe about the seizure in New Mexico in the woods, what does this Alice know, or what does this Al know about that? Nothing. She knows nothing about the lawsuit. She knows nothing about New Mexico. She knows nothing about what it's like to have a big black man choke you on a choking couch because you didn't want to eat food that was food poison because it was rotting in a fridge for 2 days with no electricity, and the milk has literally got chunks floating at the top, but you're being forced to drink those chunks. She has no clue what that's like. And then on top of that, I'm brought to a vacation town so my father can sell a house, make some money, while I miss out on more education. Then we move to Chelmsford, and my mother just starts going on about the mental illnesses again. Then the drugs come into play. Now in the morning, I'm drooling, lethargic. Then they give me an upper of Ritalin. That counteracts the Seroquel. Then I'm buzzed for about 30 minutes. But then the Ritalin overpowers the Seroquel, trazodone, and Thorazine. So then I'm up and moving. But once when the Ritalin wears off and they give me my afternoon meds, then I'm a drooling mess by 6 o'clock, and I'm also super hungry. I start eating everything down, but then I'm sick to my stomach because I ate too much because of the side effect to the medication. Also because I'm in programs, if I don't eat at 6 o'clock and they have supper at 4 o'clock, I am now sick to my stomach because of the meds, because some meds make me sick to my stomach while others make me hungry. So you got one med screwing with my stomach, you got one med making me hungry, like the trazodone Seroquel make you hungry, while Ritalin makes you sick to your stomach, antibiotics make you sick to your stomach. A lot of those, like Wellbutrin, makes you sick to your stomach. So I got meds I'm taking. My mother's not even caring if I take it with water, food. She doesn't give a fuck. When I was at 7 years old, she was having me take them dry. I had no idea that that could cause damage to my esophagus, but my mother was like, no, take the pills dry. One of her nurse's buddies warned me and my mother that that could be dangerous. And my mother said, no, it's okay. Just he's used to it. Then I burned my throat and never took a pill dry again. I had to learn that for myself. My mother didn't help me. No, she told me to take pills dry. She had no care if I took them dry or not. I was a child. I had no clue that something could happen to me. But once when I felt the burn, I never did it again. I asked for water. But that just shows my mother's concern for my health. She didn't know what my medications were. When I had an overdose, she didn't work with the doctors. She didn't care that I lost my vision during this overdose. She wanted nothing to do with my health. All she wanted to do is make up mental illnesses so that she could make up fantasy stories and get attention with these therapists and these psychiatrists. Not only this, when people started to realize she was really the one that needed a psychiatrist, she would blame that on me and move around and try to prevent anybody from actually seeing her for what she was, a crazy, mentally ill person that should have never been in control of a child's health. The only reason why I'm alive today is because I spent most of my time getting drugged in programs where they did do damage to my body, but no more overdoses, no more double doses in the programs, only in hospitals, orphanages, and for my mother. Yes, I got a double dose of medication in the orphanage at age 4 or 5. I got multiple overdoses, over medicated, full bottles of Epicac, snuck meds into my shit by my mother. Then Lowell Treatment Center held me down and gave me a double dose of medication because my roommate wanted to get fun. He wanted, I made him out to be a drug addict because I told him to stop talking about drugs, and he ended up going and trying to punish me for it. So he made up a story to the staff, and then the staff double dosed me with medications because my roommate lied. This happens all the time. But see, this is the problem. You got medical professionals causing permanent damage to children because a roommate made up a story. There's no proof. There's nothing going on. Nobody cheeked any meds. Nobody spit out any meds. There's nothing on a table. There's nothing to be shown. There's nothing on the tongue. There's nothing on the lip. There's nothing in the cheek. There's nothing. I swallowed multiple pills that were making me sicker and making me worse, but my mother said I needed them for life and was brainwashing me. And on top of this, thanks to my roommate going out in the hall and telling the staff member I did not take my meds when he knew I did, but he just wanted to get back at me, the staff member comes over and asks me if I did. I say, of course I did. Then she says, well, we don't know, so we're going to force another dose down you. I said, no, don't do that. That could cause harm. Please, I took my meds. You could really hurt me. She goes, too bad. She brings a man over. They start holding me by the shoulders. They start injecting me with drugs. They start forcing the double doses into me. Then I feel like my heart is skipping beats. I'm drooling. I can't swallow. My head is hurting for 2 days afterwards. This is a child that's having to go through this. This is when I was a child. We are literally putting orphans and people that are already going through stuff. I had to go to like 7 different schools in my lifetime. I had to live in 5 different states. That's already hard on a child to be moving that much. It's already hard to lose your mother and have to go into an orphanage. It's already hard being hyper. But now they want to add on drugs, drowsiness. They want to add on an overdose. They want to give me extra Epicac as a punishment. They want to twist my whole demeanor. They want to turn me playing in the matches and I'm burning down the house. And the way that worked, as I was only 5 years old. 5 years old. And I'm in an orphanage. I've never seen a fireplace. I've never seen a candle even get lit. But I see them I see somebody smoking a cigarette and lighting matches. I see candles, I see fireplaces, and I think it's cool. So I want to figure out how to light a match. Now, all this is in my head. I'm only 5 years old. I see glowing thing, cool, ooh, I want. That's it. That's the whole thought process of a 5-year-old. You don't have any more context. You don't have a full understanding of the world, or nobody truly does yet because of the world's being so fucked up. But you don't have a basic understanding of the world. So you see fire, cool, glowy, I like it. So I find a pair of book of matches in my reach. I go, oh, matches. Then I try to light them. And I light them in a dark area in the closet, but none of them light. None of them light. So I leave them there. They're all out. They're all tried. I didn't get a single one to light. What a bummer. Then my mother starts asking me if I'm trying to burn the house down, which I say no. Then she asks me again if I'm trying to burn the house down, which I say no. But now she's really trying to get a yes out of me, and I say, what do you want from me? Yes, no, yes, maybe, I don't know. What do you want from me? I don't know what I was trying to do because I don't have a vocabulary or any psychological terms to describe a child. Ooh, fire, ooh. There is no trying to do. I wasn't trying to do anything. I was trying to figure out what you know. You know how to light a match. I want to figure that out. And I couldn't. I wasn't until I was about 13 years old I found out how to light a lighter and light a match. Until I was 13, I thought that pressing a button on a Bic lighter was supposed to light it, and all those lighters that people let me try were broken. I would hit the button, nothing would light, and I would say, this light is broken. This light is broken. Because you gotta flick the spark. But see, I didn't know that. So all I did was light a bunch of matches and nothing happened. But my mother, she went in there putting words in my mouth, asking me questions. She didn't say, what are you trying to do? Oh, you don't know? Okay. Well, don't do that now. Don't do that. No, playing with matches, you'll get burned. No, no, no. You sit in that room quietly. You're in timeout. No. No, you know what they did? They smack me around, they drug me, they try to put me in institutions, they twist my mind, they put words in my mouth, that when I say no, I'm not trying to burn the house down, they don't take that answer and they keep asking the same question over and over until they get a different answer. Then when I get a different answer, they say, no, you said it, you said it, you said it. What do you mean by it? You don't know? Well, I know what you meant by it. I know. Well, you were trying to do this and you were trying to do this because you don't like me and you don't like this and you have mother issues and you got this and this. And then my mother comes up with this big fantasy. Oh, my son has attachment disorder. Oh, and he's scared of this big house. And oh, he has these psychological disorders too. And he has this and he has this and he has this. And that's why he did it. When really, I watched my 5-year-old nephew do the same thing. I watched many, many, many children. I talked to parents when I was a teacher's aide. Do you know how many kids in the school I worked with had some problems with discovering matches? About 25 to 30% of them all discovered fire one way or another. Kids are bringing in lighters to school, matches, they're lighting them at home. Kids will always be curious about fire. But when you have a mother like mine trying to put words in a child's mouth to try to push an agenda, and then that agenda gets pushed, and then that child gets an overdose, and then he gets extra Epicac, and then he gets moved to Texas, then he gets moved to New Mexico, then he gets moved to Maine, then he gets moved to Chelmsford, Mass, then he gets moved to Haverhill, Mass, then he gets moved to Lawrence, Mass, then he gets moved to Chelmsford, Mass, then he gets moved to Lowell, Mass, then he gets moved to Westford, Mass, then he gets moved to Haverhill, Mass. Then he gets moved to Lawrence, Mass. Then he gets moved to Lowell, Mass. Then he gets moved to New Hampshire again, but this time for a longer stay. And then I stay here permanently so I can get this shit together. So I can actually get the medical care I need. But I've been suffering for 25 years with a neurological disorder, 20 years with stomach and esophagus issues, and I suffered for 15 years getting over-medicated and drugged with drugs I do know have the names of, drugs I don't know the names of, and drugs I can never know the name of because I was never prescribed them and my mother was slipping them to me. So when I try to describe this to Alice or my father, you know what they do? They either call it a fantasy or they say it must be gas. Or, oh, it must be gastritis. Like I haven't had gastritis before. Oh, yeah, you have a blockage? You don't know what you're talking about. You have gastritis. Well, how would you know what I have over the phone? Huh? Have you spent a year in my house? Have you watched the cameras? Have you spent the time with me in the last 20 years? Huh, Alice? Huh, Dad? In the last 20 years, how many years have you spent with me in your house for an entire year where we actually were having a positive conversation and being honest with one another? Never. I was always living in a program or under my mother's thumb, with my mother brainwashing my father. Like, for instance, I'll give you a brainwashing. I was on so many medications that I used to wake up in such severe pain that I would end up with these headaches that threw me to the ground and I couldn't get up. My ears would hurt, my back would hurt, my legs wouldn't be able to work, and I'd be screaming in pain on the ground. Now, I got brought to the emergency room for this, and you know what? They gave me Vicodin. They tried everything. Vicodin covered it up good enough where I could walk, and the pain was reduced. So they gave me a prescription of Vicodin and had me leave the hospital. Okay, well, my mother said she wanted to control my Vicodins. She said she was afraid that I might abuse my Vicodin, so she needs to hold on to them. Okay, she's the parent. I'm only 15, 16 years old or something like that. Understandable. So, my prescription of Vicodin goes in my mother's closet. Then my Vicodin starts disappearing. I ask for one, the bottle's half empty. I ask for one again, and there's more missing, and there's more missing, and there's more missing. So I start staking out my own medications, while already knowing my mother was stealing my Xanax that were old prescriptions. So I already know that she's not against taking my controlled substances. But my father doesn't want to listen to any of this. He wants to live in fantasy land, where I'm just, nothing makes sense with me, and my mother is some angel that can do no wrong. None of the things my father or mother did that were illegal or totally evil ever get acknowledged by my father or any of his wives. Of course, my mother, she wasn't going to acknowledge it. I mean, she was the one doing it. I got her to acknowledge that she gave me extra Epicac, a full bottle, as a punishment, but she never acknowledged that that was wrong. Still to this day, my father and mother believe that giving extra medication to a child as a punishment is acceptable behavior. So anyways, these are the people I'm dealing with and trying to convince to listen to their own brains about what they saw. Here, I'll give you a memory. You remember when my mother took my Vicodin? Yeah. You remember what she said? I said my mother was taking Vicodin. She got caught red-handed taking my Vicodin. I got you. She couldn't get out of it because she got caught red-handed. Her hand was in the cookie jar taking her son's prescriptions. And what was done about this? Oh, they blamed me. They blamed me and said I shouldn't be watching her. It's not my mother's fault that she's stealing her son's pills that are a controlled substance and getting high off them with alcohol. That has nothing to do with my mother. I shouldn't be watching her. It's all my fault for watching my mother. I shouldn't have been watching her, so she had every right to take my Vicodin out of her closet and start getting high off of them with alcohol. But my father, he thinks this is all acceptable. He goes, see, Zach, you shouldn't have been watching her. She only did it once. See, you're in trouble now. She would turn it around and I would be in trouble. My mother would do something wrong, like drink during the day, or lie about a bottle of booze, or take my medicine, or give me an overdose. And when she gets caught, or people start speaking up about it, it's everybody else's fault. Like, she has to go to therapy. Her job told her that she needed to go to therapy. Her own job. Now, no matter how she twisted it, if your own job is telling you to go to therapy, then that has to do with you. Her job has never met me. I have never, ever spent any time in her work. But yet, her job said that she needed to go to therapy before returning to work. You know what she did? She screamed and punished me and said it was all her son's fault that she has to go to therapy. I have to go to therapy because it's needed, because I have all these mental illnesses, that it's okay to go to therapy. But then when my mother has to go to therapy, it's all her son's fault. This is very clear inappropriate behavior by a mother. Now, when I was 15, I did not know this. I wasn't ready to be a parent. But I am now 31, and I have friends that have kids. I have had friends that have lost their kids. I have had friends that take care of their animals appropriately, and I've had friends that lost their kids and their animals. I know exactly what's inappropriate and not. And doing drugs and giving your kid an overdose and giving him extra Epicac and putting him up in cabins in New Mexico, then trafficking him around the country and not taking responsibility for your son's education, not taking responsibility for your son's health, then leaving him in the woods to die and handle it himself. That's fucked up parenting right there, and that's why I'm gonna die very soon. Yes, I'm age 31 and I don't have much to live. I'm literally on the toilet and I cleared out a blockage at about 9:30 with an enema because it started to give me heart palpitations. And I've now been looking into this for a year, and I've had a gastritis multiple times from dairy products. I found out that lactose gives me gas, but I'm not lactose intolerant. I am swine intolerant. If I eat pork, I get gas in the shits. I've learned a lot about myself talking to doctors honestly about what's happened to me. But my family hasn't done shit. They did not find out I was swine intolerant. They did not find out about any of my allergies. They did not find out about the overdose when I spoke up about it. They never even told me why I lost my vision that day completely. We're not talking about blurry vision. We're talking about losing my complete eyesight, where everything is a complete blur, where my own hand I can't see the difference from in the carpet. I put my hand across my face and you can't even see it because everything's blurring together. This happened to me at age 7 years old. Something happened in my nervous system during an overdose. I spoke up at the doctor's office and they hid this from they tried everything to try to dodge it. And it worked. I have to die. My mother was allowed to kill herself with drugs and alcohol with nobody even prosecuting her. My father got to run away and he's been partying on a beach, drinking old man party, on a beach with a book in hand, maybe a Kindle, a nice little $10,000 car, go spend $400 on out to eat, go buy the most expensive bottle of gin to keep at home, keep on paying for a beach house, have multiple houses, multiple cars, continue going out to eat, get a new wife, spend money on your new wife without cleaning up the mess of your second wife. Oh, yes, your second wife had a big mess you never cleaned up, and you've just moved on. You've just let other people suffer for your second wife's decisions, which you never, ever held her accountable for. So, yes, if I try to have a conversation with them about this, and I said, oh, I have blockages a lot. I don't know if that's from my meds or not, from all these years of drug abuse, but it can be. It needs to be looked into because we need to find out what it is. I'm also having seizures, blah, blah, blah. She'd say, it's probably gas. No, we're not helping. Oh, you've had seizures for 25 years and you've had shakes? Why have I never seen one? Probably because you never gave a fuck. That's why. Why did Alice never see a seizure or a shake or anything? Well, that's more on her. Because the only time I remember actually having any shakes or problems with cold with her would have been one time while walking through a town at nighttime, and I was much older, and one time when we were on the beach and it was really windy, and everybody just kind of was like, okay, we want to stay, but then it got windy and I was too cold, and I said I wanted to go home. I want to go home. I started to shake. I ended up not being able to dig anymore. I just kind of curled up in a ball in front of a pot in a pail and didn't really dig very much. Just kind of sat there shaking, not being able to use my nervous system very much. Just staring at the pot and pail, not really being able to dig, trying to dig, but not really being able to do anything. Then, after 15 minutes, I'm all curled up in a ball, kind of like sitting on the sand. At this point, they leave. They decide it's time to leave. They get up, they leave. But I can't move my legs, so I just say no. I can't go now. I can't go. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I can't go. So then my mother goes, fine, we're leaving you here. And so she really leaves me there at the age of like 7 years old. So I'm left in like Hampton Beach or Salisbury Beach, just sitting there on a cold, windy day, not really fully dressed. I'm shaking, pretty cold. But my mother gets all the way across the other street. She's already left the beach. She's on across the street. She realizes I'm not following her because I can't move my legs. So she comes over and starts slapping me in the back of the head, grabbing my arm and forcing me up and start dragging me as far as she can. My legs really aren't working. I'm trying to catch my balance, but by the time we get past the sand, I'm walking okay. But Alice and everybody else, they're already across the street. They're with my father. There's just my mother at this point ripping me out of the sand, trying to force me to walk on. What the fuck is wrong with you? Walk already. You're just stubborn. And she forces me across the street. I get in, and we have some lemonade and some cookies, and I think my mother's best friend's daughter even brings me to the arcade or something. And it gets really warm. No, that was a different time because when we went to the arcade, it was super warm. I remember that. It was nice out. It was warm, 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 and I was able to walk around and move. But when we were on the beach with my mother and I got left there, it was windy and about, I would say, in the 60 with a wind chill. Maybe 68 with a 5-degree wind chill, something like that. But it felt colder to me because the sun started dropping, and this must have been around 4 o'clock because we spent a couple hours on the beach, just an hour or two. I wanted to go home first. Nobody else wanted to. About 30 minutes later, 15 minutes, whatever amount of time, then everybody wants to go home and I can't move my legs anymore. Everybody leaves me there. My mother comes back for me after she's already crossed the road. Then she starts yelling at me that my legs don't want to move. This has been an ongoing issue for my whole life. I was only 7 years old and my mother's dragging me around because my legs don't want to work. Same thing happened to me when I was about 10, 12, no, about 12 years old when we were in Agunquit, Maine. We're in Agunquit, Maine, another beach, because don't forget, my mother's and father's happiness come first. So, fuck my hospital. We need to go to a beach so they can party. Anyway, so we're on another beach. It's nighttime, though. The fireworks are about to go off. They go off. It's chilly. Even though I have a coat, I'm still shaking. And then when the fireworks, I look at them, the bangs start going, the loud noise, but usually I don't have too much of a problem with one loud noise that far away. But yet, all of a sudden, the flashing light goes into my eyeballs, into my neck, and I can feel the flashing lights in my neck. Then my ears start ringing and hurting. And then my back starts shaking, and then my legs won't hold me up, so I drop to the ground. Then the pain gets more severe in the in the ears, neck, and back, and I don't know how to describe the back or the neck. That's just lightning, just nerves. That's just my nervous system. But my ears are shooting all this pain everywhere. And so what happens? My family leaves me there to watch the fireworks for a little longer. I scream some more, scream some more. Eventually, they drag me into the car. Eventually, the pain stops because I'm now warm and there's no flashing lights and no loud noises. Then my mother tries to make it that I'm autistic because autistic people don't like loud noises. Meanwhile, totally ignoring the fact that I was cold and saying that the cold was hurting me. Totally ignoring that I keep on saying, cold I don't like, cold hurts, I don't like cold, I don't like cold, cold is hurting, I don't like cold, I can't move because I'm cold, I can't move because I'm cold, my legs aren't moving because it's cold, I'm shaking because it's cold, I fell because it's cold. I say this my whole life. So, when I tried to tell Alice or my father or Al or Jojo or the big purple dinosaur about this in my family, they won't listen. Not with my father and my dead mother lying so much about my health. They don't know the first thing about my health. They don't know what meds I take. They don't know what meds I need. They don't even know the side effects of the meds they were forcing down my throat. Yes, my mother and father gave permission to Lowell General Hospital to force drugs into me that they don't even know the side effects to. They don't even know the names to. And when I had an allergy attack and an overdose, my mother didn't even want to look into what the name of the pill that almost killed me was. Yes, I had a severe almost deadly reaction where my breathing slowed down. I went unconscious, lost my sight, lost my nervous system, and my life changed forever that day. And when I brought this up in the doctor's office and my mother admitted that there was some medications given to me and it must have just been an allergy attack, and the doctor asked what medications were those, my mother says she doesn't know. She doesn't want to talk about it. She doesn't want to look it up. It doesn't matter. And then she dodges the question. In the car home, she asks me, why did I say that? I don't have the answer to that. I said it because it happened. That's all. I was answering the doctor's question. That's why. The doctor asked a question, and I was answering it honestly. That's all. That's why I'm saying this. I need medical help, and I've been bringing this up for 25 years. That's why I'm saying it. Because it's happening. Because I'm tired of dying. Tired of falling. Tired of having knee pain. Other knee pain. Back pain. My knees hurt because I've had so many seizures that my knees have jammed into the cement so many times that I really feel them constantly now. I mean, you can't take hundreds of beatings to the knee, the head, the arms, the knuckles, and not expect any lasting pain. Of course I have lasting pain. And this is going to continue getting worse over time till the point where I don't wake up. And that's, once again, my father and mother's fault, not mine. There's nothing I can do. If I die from this, it's not like I did anything. I've tried everything I can to get better. But when you have a rich person trying to make you worse and trying to make sure you never get medical care and trying to lie to your doctors and trying to turn everything into a mental illness, like when I was bumping into stuff, oh, mental illness. When I jumped into a pool, mental illness. When I'm showing a swimming medal to my mother, mental illness. Everything was a mental illness. So that, of course, is going to make it impossible to get any medical treatment for something you know is going on. Especially when you have been spending 25 years recording the symptoms so that way you can describe it to a doctor more properly. But the problem isn't my description of my illness. The problem is other people are making up lies. I always thought that it was because I wasn't describing the illness good enough, that was the reason why I never got help. But then as I got older, I realized in the doctor's office, I described it as lightning in my back, as I lost my sight, I lost all my senses, I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, and I went blind. Those are the words I used at age 7 to describe this neurological disorder and overdose. But if my mother had looked into this, then that would have been fine. But see, the problem was my mother said nothing happened. Don't pay attention. It was just an allergy. Don't pay no attention to it. So it got overlooked over and over and over. The problem was I had a lying mother who wanted to avoid responsibility for the crime she was committing. That simple. Now she's no longer alive, and I have to suffer for the rest of my life because my father wants me to go down with the ship. Oh, my mother went down. I'm all that's left. Then he can get away with it and spend the rest of his time on cruise boats. And who's going to care about an orphan like me? Oh, a green elder like me. Who's going to care? I changed my name, but none of those green elders are going to care about me. No. How about the Department of Health and Human Services? No. You think any lawyers will take my case? Zach doesn't have any money. He can't even drive. We've done a good job at crippling his ass. He can't drive. He can't walk. He can't talk. He can't even complete some phone calls. He can't use technology. Oh yeah, we fucked Zach up good, and there's no way he's getting justice. So all I have to do is speed up the process a little more, call his doctors, send my wife on no chain, unhook my wife, my new wife, and tell her, go loose, go loose. Call Daz. Who cares what you do? You want to call Zach's doctor and say it's all a fantasy? Go ahead, I don't care. I guarantee you that if my father heard his new wife talking to my doctor, calling all of this a fantasy, he would have no problem with that. But if then something happened to him or his children and I called it a fantasy and made sure they couldn't get help, then he would all of a sudden go psycho. If something happened to my father's grandkids or my aunt's grandkids where they could not receive medical care because of something I said or something I did, they would go completely bonkers. But I can't get medical care for something they said and something they did, that doesn't matter. That's different. Fuck it. This is. I'm tired of hearing my mother's and father's stupid logic. Fool's logic, I call it. Fool's logic. Like, for one thing, people do stuff for multiple reasons. That's very common. You go to college for multiple. Why did you go to college? Because I wanted more money, I wanted an education, I wanted a career, I wanted to be above my other classmates, I wanted to meet a wife, I wanted to learn a certain skill. There's multiple reasons. And then somebody asks me why I went to college, and I say more money. And then they say, well, I thought you went to college to get a degree. Well, I did that too. Well, which one is it? Oh, no, you're lying to me because you changed your answer. That's fool's logic. That's when you try to pick somebody's story apart by using fool's logic. I hear it all the time. Fool's logic. Or when somebody mishears you or misunderstands you, and instead of coming back and asking for more information and more details, they just continue to add details of their own making. Fool's logic. Here's another one where somebody takes a one-liner phraser and decides that counts for everything so they can do whatever they want. Yeah, like Trump. I'm president, so I can do whatever I want without consequences. Well, if that's true, if Trump has all immunity as a president, then doesn't that mean that Biden could assassinate Trump anytime he wants? If the sitting president can commit a crime, any crime he wants, and not be prosecuted, doesn't that mean that sitting president like Biden can order the assassination and the death of Donald Trump, and Joe Biden would be clear in the eyes of the law, because Donald Trump says he can commit all the crimes he wants because he was in office. He has made the statement over and over that he has presidential immunity, that a sitting president cannot be charged for a crime that he committed in office, no matter how heinous or no matter what the crime is. Well, if that is true, and Trump is found that he can do that, then that also means that Biden can do that, meaning that Biden then has permission to commit murder, any crime he wants against Trump. Well, I don't want to live in a world where our presidents are allowed to murder and commit crimes against the other party and do whatever they want. I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to live in a world of corruption, greed, where presidents assassinate other presidents and they get to break any of the rules they make. That world is an indecent world. That is pretty close to the world we live in right now. But people like me are trying to change it for the better by spreading religious values, love, peace, trying to spread the truth, understanding, asking questions, speaking up, giving information freely that could help another person, trying not to profit off of other people, not feeding into greed or corruption. These are the things that we need to hold and cherish. Not greed, not our houses, not our cars. Those things come and go. You cannot take them when you die. But you know what you do take with you when you die? Your sins. All the people out there that are hurting because of something you did, you'll all meet up the end and all that baggage is coming with you. Like, you think my father can really just outlive his consequences? Okay, my father and mother crippled and made a child disabled. Then they lied about it, made things worse. Then they lied about it, made things worse. Then they trafficked me, made things worse. Then they lied about it, made things worse. Then I got worse abused, made things worse and worse and worse and worse. Went on without an education, worse and worse and worse. And you got me having no idea how to handle this, but I'm trying my best just to be the goody two-shoes I am. But I'm being made fun of in the programs because I'm too good boy. I'm the good one. All the staff members like me because I'm the good one, but all the other kids want to beat me up because I'm a teacher's pet, because I'm always following the rules. The only rule I break is the smoking rule, no smoking. That's the only rule I was willing to break. Cigarettes, drugs. But everything else, I always followed to the letter. I got made fun of for it. I used to actually, like for instance, this younger kid stole an iPod. He said he found it under the couch. Bullshit, but whatever. He wanted to know what I thought of it. So I grabbed the iPod, brought it to the original kid, gave it to him, and the kid goes, "Oh, I guess I can trust all of you guys in here." And everybody laughed and said, "No, you can only trust Zach. Zach has had his iPod stolen. Zach has his stuff stolen all the time, and he believes in not stealing stuff." So they all laughed and said, "No, that's just Zach. You leave that around us and we're swiping it." They all told him that too. The other kids in the program were like, "No, you leave that shit and it's ours." I was the only one, and they used to make fun of me for it. But yet, my mother is calling me a liar, a thief, all these names when I'm only 7 years old and I'm trying to show her a swimming medal. Keep that in mind. I got my mother telling doctors all these stories. Meanwhile, teachers and other students and other kids are seeing the real me and making fun of me for it. So I got the worst of both worlds. I got my mother and father acting like I'm some devil child, and then you got the program and all these staff members that grew up with me that actually spent the time with me going, wow, he's the. I mean, I was the. I mean, goodness sake, I was the only kid allowed to actually bring cigarettes in the program because the staff trusted me. If they told me not to give a kid cigarettes, I didn't give it to them. If I needed cigarettes, the staff would buy it for me. If another kid that was allowed to smoke needed cigarettes and he was going nuts in his room, and the staff member did not want to buy that kid cigarettes, and this was only 15-year-olds, keep that in mind, this is like 14, 15-year-olds, they would bring them to me and say, "Zach, can you get this kid cigarettes?" And that was only when I turned 16, I could buy cigarettes wherever I wanted, because I used to just bring a learner's permit to any gas station, tell them I was 18, put the learner's permit on the table. Some of them would give it back and say no, but 1 out of 3 gas stations would just sell to me. Well, it was a pretty good trick. Just put a learner's permit that had the red bar wiped out, and eventually I'll get a pack of cigarettes, and it worked. And once when you find a place that will do it and a worker, you go back to that place. Anyway, so that's how I lived in my childhood. And now, if I try to bring it up to people, I just get hurt further. I just get made fun of. They call things fantasies. They call my doctors behind my back. They try everything they can to not help, because the only thing they can really do to help